Hey everybody, it's time to talk trucks, specifically Truck of the Year finalists for 2024. We have quite a selection of vehicles today. So, just to clarify what the rules are for our Car of the Year contest, some of us have to have driven the vehicle in 2023 over the last 365 days. It has to be available for sale at least by first quarter 2024. And we have to know how much it's going to cost, which, actually sounds kind of silly to say out loud, but there are vehicles I have driven in 2023 that we still don't know how much they're going to cost.
Yeah, good news is that for this list, we've got them all put together.
Yep, and I will say one of those vehicles is on this list and on your screen. We know most of its pricing, but we don't know all of it. I have been promised, pinky swear promised, that Toyota is going to release options pricing on the Tacoma. So we know how much the trim levels cost, but we don't know how much a Tacoma will actually cost you by the time you've added all the things you want on it. So Travis, take us through the lineup and how much they cost.
Yeah, so we'll just go from smallest to largest just to start things off. And to start, we have the Ford Maverick, and with a specialty focus on the hybrid. That's going to come in at 23.4 for the standard Maverick and 24.9 for that hybrid. So a little bit of a bump, but for a lot of folks, probably worth it. Then we're going to go on to that Toyota Tacoma, which we don't have full pricing on yet, but we do know it's going to start at 31.5, and it is certainly going to go up from there. The
Yep.
full-size truck in this category ends up being the GMC Sierra, which is going to start out at $45,395. And at the very top, we kind of sandwich the rest of these trucks with another Ford. That's going to be the Super Duty starting at $44,970.
Yep, and I'm calling that the entire Super Duty portfolio in a way. So it's like F250 all the way up to, well, yeah, F450. Let's be honest, because the 550, 650, they're kind of a different category. But that core Super Duty makeup there. Take us away on the Maverick hybrid, because this has been an absolute bombshell success for Ford. They simply cannot build enough of them, including the hybrid. And I know that some folks out there are going to say you shouldn't include the hybrid on this list because you can't get one. They're like hen's teeth. They're just about as rare. I would say it's worth it. I actually know someone that has had a pre-order on a Maverick in for 2 years. She finally got her Maverick hybrid. I would say a 40 mile per gallon truck is worth the wait.
Yeah, and we're talking about the hybrid as the one we would get, and it's the one a lot of folks will get, and you can't get enough of them. But when we talk about the pricing starting at 24.9, that pricing has switched because it used to be the cheaper option, and Ford essentially saw what was happening. They saw the demand for it. They switched things up, and it has not slowed demand in the slightest.
Yep, that is definitely true. And it's kind of funny. They originally thought that they would need to make the hybrid the loss leader so that way they could sell enough of them to raise the average fuel economy rating up so that way they could justify the entire Maverick's existence. Turns out, I'm actually not surprised that it's popular. I'm surprised that Ford is surprised, but turns out the hybrid is the one that everybody wants because, it looks kind of cute, kind of boxy. It's definitely very practical. The bed in the back is not the biggest, but you can carry 4x8 sheet goods if you want to. They'll stick out the back a little bit, but that's fine. And it has all the practicality and convenience of a Ford Escape jammed into this little baby pickup truck size thing, which I will specify is actually not that small. It's bigger than a Ford Explorer. It's kind of Dodge Durango-y sized. But I still think that's a great format for a small truck.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean
air
it
quotes,
is
small.
it is it is our form of a compact truck here in 2023, 2024. And so if it's the smallest that exists, then it gets the nod at this is a compact truck. That said, there is enough room, if not plentiful room, for 4 or 5 people. I could see these being used as contractor vehicles. You put the right rack on there and have it go over the cab, and you can put all of your sheet goods on there while still getting incredible fuel economy. And the other thing that is so different from the world of most trucks is that all-wheel drive, not available on the hybrid, but the hybrid is a front-wheel drive. So when we're talking about areas that do see traction conditions that are more challenging, heavy snow areas, that front-wheel drive is what you want to have anyway. So I think for a lot of people, there's very little that truck cannot do for them. And not only is that why it's on the list, but that's why you can't hardly find one.
Yeah, I have to admit, if I didn't need to tow, if I just took the towing out of the equation, the Maverick would probably be pretty damn perfect for my setup where I live out in the mountains. But our next option is definitely more off-road focused, while still also having a nod to work truck functionality, and that is the somewhat controversial new Toyota Tacoma.
Yeah, and we spent some time with the Toyota and a lot of the Tacoma here, and a lot of the different variations of it. I think it's a nice upgrade from the previous year. We didn't get to see all of the Tacoma available. We didn't see
Hmm.
the top end TRD Pro or Trail Hunter
Yep.
or that new powertrain in that configuration. But the Tacoma has been the number one selling midsize truck for a long time. I don't think that's going to change here with these changes. There is going to be some humming and hawing about the lack of the V6 and everything's turbocharged now. But I would take that Turbo 4 over the six cylinder any day because
Yeah,
of
me
the
too.
numbers, and
Hmm.
it pans out well. I understand that if you feel like it's less with the V6, but give it a drive. I think you'll find it's not the case.
Yeah, the V6 always felt a little underpowered in the Tacoma. You ended up having to really dig too deep into the throttle to get the transmission to shift to finally get some oomph out of it. The 2.4-liter turbo is, I think, just a better pairing, to be perfectly honest. I really appreciate the fact that Toyota did not abandon the base trims either. We still have an SR. You can get the two-door cab. Some folks are going to be a little bit sad that it's a two-door, two-seat cab. There is no back seat in that model. It does have the sort of the larger cab format. It's not a standard cab. It is that slightly larger cab, of course. Um, but there's no back seat. Instead, it's for storage in the back, and there's no bench seat in the front. I do kind of wish they'd given us a three-person bench. That could have been kind of a cool option. But you do get the long bed, which is a really nice touch, and it helps drop the price of the Tacoma down for someone that just wants an honest four-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive pickup truck with decent functionality. You can also get the tow package on that base model, and you can get the manual transmission if you want to as well.
Yeah, and it started at 31.5. That is an increase from the previous model. It is a fairly expensive entry level pickup. I mean, there's no two ways about it, but it does offer quite a bit. Like you said, the cab configuration is an extra cab instead of an access cab, and that
Yeah,
that is a distinct difference for folks who have the access cab. And you say that's the one I want. Please do go
right.
check it out. But there's still a lot to offer from Toyota, and like you said, the extra cab is the only thing available in the segment. There's not a lot of standard cabs in the midsize segment. I can't think of any. Most of them are going to be four doors
Frontier.
if you want
Frontier
some.
has the extra cab, or sorry, the king cab.
Okay,
King cab on the
okay, so
Frontier. Yeah,
similar extended
similar.
versus another.
Yeah, but the king cab has kind of two kind of useless back seats. They're little tiny things. And for me, the king cab could be a bit of a problem for folks that live in an area where we have carpool lane restrictions. This is actually kind of maybe it's a specifically urban thing. But say if you're in certain areas of California or New York, et cetera, where there are three-person carpool lanes, if you have two people in a two-person vehicle, you can still use that carpool lane. But in a king cab Frontier, even though no human can actually sit in those back seats rationally, other than tiny children with the booster seat, maybe, you still can't use those carpool lanes with two people in there. We should actually talk a little bit about the competition because, of course, we have the Frontier. We drove that last year. We did not actually drive it in 2023, mind you. We do have the Colorado and the Canyon, which we did drive this year. And I would say for me, the GMC Canyon was a close second in this category. But the variation that we find in the Tacoma lineup, its expected reliability, I think that pushes it to the top for me. You have the manual transmission availability, you have the different bed lengths, you have the different cab lengths. Those are not available on the GMC Canyon. And depending on exactly how you equip your Canyon, it could be similarly priced or a little bit more expensive.
Yeah, and when it comes to the category, we essentially picked one from every segment of truck, and if it's second place in the segment, then it certainly couldn't be truck of the year. So it is worth mentioning that it's a close draw, and it's going to bring in a different type of buyer between the two models. I do expect to see the Tacoma still probably come out on top for sales, but it doesn't mean
Oh,
that
for
the
sure. Yep.
Canyon is not a phenomenal midsize truck in and of its own.
Yep. And the last thing I should mention is the upcoming Ranger from Ford has been completely redesigned. Well, mostly redesigned. That's probably how I should phrase that. That's coming in 2024. We haven't driven it yet, so it's not on this list. And next up, we have the GMC Sierra 1500. I didn't actually intend this category initially to be one from each subcategory of trucks. That's sort of how it turned out, but that wasn't the initial intent here. Take us through the pricing on the Sierra 1500.
Yeah, so that Sierra is going to start at 45,395, and so if we look at just from the mid-size competition that we have here on on the table is that Tacoma at 31.5. It is a significant increase, but you were getting quite a bit in the base model on that Sierra.
Yeah, that's true. And we should know that the base model of Sierra is not going to get the new interior, but the new interior is the main reason that it's on this list. I would say, ranking wise, the interior, the 3-liter diesel, the 10-speed automatic transmissions available in the Sierra 1500, and the blend of capability and options that you find in that model are why we ended up putting it on this particular list. When this generation of Sierra launched, let's be honest, its interior was dreadful. It would never have been on this list. But GMC and Chevy definitely fixed the interior in the Silverado and the Sierra, and I kind of like the look of the Sierra a little bit more, which is why I think that helped bubble it to the top here on this list. But I would say its interior now is solidly competitive with the best pickup trucks in America. I think it still looks better to my eye than the Ford F-150. I think that GM's infotainment systems are also a solid win. We have the availability of Super Cruise in certain versions of GM's trucks as well. That's also a really big win for GM over Ram and over Ford. Blue Cruise is offered in the F-150, but Blue Cruise is not as polished. In the Ram 1500, we are going to be seeing a refresh for that model very, very soon, so we'll see how that stacks up. But currently, I would say that the engine lineup in the GMC lineup is a big win for them as well.
Yeah, when you look at the whole thing as a package, it checks a lot of those boxes, and so it not only makes sense that it's here on our list, but it's a good truck, and they made a lot of changes that have kind of gone the distance. It's a nice place to be. It's a great place to spend time in for hours on the road. It'll do what you need it to do as far as towing and hauling and fitting people and luggage and cargo and the whole thing. So it's an impressive package. I think it's an attractive package, just the appearance wise. It's a good looking truck.
Yep. And going forward, this is sort of a little preview of 2024, but going forward, the Sierra is actually also going to be one of the only ways to get a naturally aspirated V8 engine, and it's going to be the only truck in America in this half-ton segment that's going to offer you two different naturally aspirated V8 choices. We are still going to get the 5-liter V8 in the F-150 in some trims, but the Ram 1500, the Hemi is dead. And so in the GMC Sierra, that's really going to be the way to go. I think if you want, especially a larger, more powerful, larger displacement, more powerful engine, or if you're looking for something that's a V8 but still pretty fuel efficient, the 5.3 actually fits that bill.
And that said, with all those other options, it's the diesel that's our favorite.
Yeah, I really, really love that 3-liter inline six. If I had to pick one, that's definitely how I would go. Of course, a lot of diesel lovers associate heavy-duty trucks with diesels, so let's talk about the F-250 now.
Yeah, so we've got that Super Duty, the 250 specifically, but kind of the rest of the lineup as well. Starting out at 44,970, there is a lot of capability built into this truck.
Yep, and so many options. Ford sells, of course, the most trucks in America, and it's not hard to see why because there are so many different ways you could configure your Super Duty. Just the fact that we have 250, 350, and 450 in the lineup, where the other manufacturers have just a 3/4 ton and 1 ton, and they try and fill that range with those two models. Having 3 in the lineup allows Ford to do things that are a little bit different. So the F450 is the towing specific model, is probably the best way to think of it. The F350 is the more hauling oriented model, although both will haul and tow quite a lot of stuff. But really, towing capacity and that dedication to towing and engineering is the reason that Super Duty is here, because if you have the right license, you could tow up to 40,000 pounds in your Super Duty, which is absolutely bonkers. And they have a diesel engine that has over 1,000 pound-feet of torque, so significantly more than we find in the Ram lineup at this point in time. You do find pretty healthy torque and hauling and towing figures in the General Motors truck lineup, but GM has gone in maybe a slightly different direction. They don't really seem to want to chase those absolutely bonkers class-leading numbers in the way that Ford has really wanted to stay on top with the Super Duty line.
Well, when it comes to class leading, if someone's looking at a spreadsheet and they say that's the biggest number and that's the one I want, it you get into a pretty tit for tat quickly, and that can burn through a lot of resources. So if it makes sense that Ford has that crown, I don't think it's worth chasing as long as what you're putting forward is still competitive, because it's not everyone who's looking at what has the most. They're going to look at all the other options on the table as well.
Indeed, yep, and that whole a truck for everybody thing includes people that want a stripped down work truck, so you can get a very basic F-250, 350, 450, etc. You can also get very high-end fittings in the truck too. So if you are the kind of person that hauls and tows across the country on a regular basis, and you have the budget and you want to spend the money on massaging seats, nicer interior fittings, better sound systems, etc., all of that's available in the F-250, 350, etc. And that's definitely where I would go if I really did need to spend that hours and hours and hours, 8 hours a day behind the wheel, etc., towing large loads. I'd want the anti-fatigue seat functionality that's definitely going to help improve leg circulation, etc. So definitely some solid reasons for each of these trucks on the list. Be sure and let me know what you think about these choices down there in the comment section, and which would you pick if your own money were on the line, or which would you pick because you think it's the best in this group? So let us know those options down there. Find us on social media. You can actually see the winner announced on the Facebook page as well. If you haven't found us over there, be sure and do that. And then stay tuned because the rest of the categories are going to be announced over the coming days as well. See all of you later.